Bear Element, Episode 9, recorded September 2012.
Ta-da!
Big 9.
Here we are.
Yay.
009.
Yeah, we have a visiting bear back with us here. That
Bareback?
They did come out right, didn't
No,
it?
they did not. He does not believe in barebacking. I hope you don't.
I do not.
Not in San Francisco.
But I feel much warmer.
Well,
Just the same.
I was trying to talk about our returning element.
That's
Our
right.
guest element.
We have Tony. He's been gracious enough to come back and be a guest element while Tim is gone.
It's always fun.
Thank you, Tony,
You're
for coming.
welcome.
I really appreciate it.
Well, this is Clay, and I also like to thank Tony for filling in for Tim. Hi, Vito.
Hello. Hello, Clay. Sorry.
Hello, Wolfie.
Howdy, howdy. I'm back.
Wolfie's back. Was your ankle
It was my ankle. I sprained my ankle.
sprained?
Sprained.
If it was a sprain, I don't think you'd be walking. A twist.
A twist? Could be. I know that there was bleeding involved, so,
Bleeding?
yeah.
Internal bleeding?
Some internal bleeding with it, yeah. I had to go to
Wow.
the emergency room and get that looked at.
Well, we have an illustrious guest with us tonight.
Ta-da!
Clay, why don't you introduce him?
Our guest is Jeffrey Glover.
Hey, Jeff.
Hello.
Hey, Jeff.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. You have been slotted to be a guest from the very beginning.
I remember you were saying we wanted to get you by here and talk to you on the podcast. So, and now that you're all settled in and everything, and I finally got an evening to myself, I was happy to stop by.
Well, thanks. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we're doing much better than the last time you were supposed to come. The air conditioning was out in the building.
Oh, yes. That's why we had to delay it. I forgot. Okay. Well, let's get right into Jeff here.
Jeffrey Glover. Do you prefer Jeff or Jeffrey?
Jeff. I always spell it out Jeffrey. I had a driver's ed teacher who said, always spell your name out every time you write it down. But Jeff, everybody calls me Jeff. I'm fine with Jeff. So
Cool.
Yeah. Jeff.
Okay, Jeffrey. I mean, Jeff, sorry.
So, Jeff, I think I heard about you when I first came out, 15 years ago. This is
Wow.
Vito.
I'm old.
Well, we're a little up there.
Yeah, I'm turning 46 in a couple months here. So
Oh, I'm turning 47.
So that's one thing that reminds me when I get people to say, "Oh, I remember you from years ago on the internet." I'm like, "Thanks."
Thanks.
Yeah.
Well,
Doesn't
right,
look good.
because when I first started doing websites, I would go to your website. I don't even remember how I found out about it. It was called Sucky to Savvy.
Yeah, that was actually the follow-up to a silly page I put online called the Top 10 Ways to Tell If You Have a Sucky Website,
Right.
which I put up in 1995. So I one of the first websites online, and I got an account online and figured out how to do HTML. And there was a browser out called Mosaic
Mosaic,
at
yeah.
the time, and I was very active in the bulletin board community, and a lot of the bear movement and our initial communication, since a lot of us are geeks, was born out of the communication from the bulletin board systems and online. So
Yeah, I mean, when I was first learning how to do websites, like I said, I would look at your Sucky to Savvy, and I would say, okay, well, I don't want to use animated GIFs in everything, because it was right in the transition from, I don't know, where websites were starting to become sophisticated instead of just silly things.
yeah, I remember when animated GIFs first came out, and people would throw at least 400 on a single page at one time, and you about got an aneurysm from loading a web page. So I was always of the mind of less is more. So more content and less flashiness. So when I put that up, it was just and I didn't want to make it look like I was an expert or any. I don't think anybody design and just like music and a lot of other things is usually a thing, as a personal taste issue. But, at some point we all know bad design when we see it, and that was part of the point.
Right. No, it was just a guideline for me.
Yeah. Yeah, that was Go ahead.
Oh, this is Clay. What was interesting is I'm thinking back to the mid-'90s and how, these huge jumps in baud rate. We go from 1200 to 2400 to 48 to 96. And no matter how fast a modem that we got, some jackass out there would build a website that would take a half an hour.
Yeah, forever to load.
Yeah, there's actually
And then you get it and you're like, really? I waited for this?
There's actually a law, I forget what it's called, I'll have to look it up, that just basically says that no matter what the technology is, they'll just continually make it so bogged down that it's still going to run the same speed. Oh, it was based upon Pixar. They were talking about it on a recent podcast, saying how if they did Toy Story 2 with the same modeling they do now, it would take just as long to do. I mean, in the sense that, if they had the same computers and that kind of stuff. But
right. All right.
Crazy.
Well, what were some of the other things we were going to talk about that you've done?
I originally had Glover.com.
Glover.com.
I actually remember going online, and when I first got my first website, and I remember searching for things like Ford.com and McDonald's.com, and they were all available. And like an idiot, I'm thinking, well, that'd be stupid to buy someone else's domain name. And actually was buddies with Henry Mensch at the time, and Henry Mensch and I had chatted online. He owned Q.com. So I thought it was pretty cool. There were only 4 domain names that they released as single-letter domain names, and Henry Mensch had one of them at Q.com.
Oh, wow.
And I actually did Henry's website for him because we just had a technology-type trade. So, and Henry was into numismatics, and it was kind of a cool thing. It was like the Wild West, and we're all doing different things, and every bear knew every other bear online that had a website.
Absolutely.
So my, as a matter of fact, the Sucky to Savvy was on the front screen of Netscape. When Netscape first came out, it was featured on the front page of that, and so a lot of people ended up there. But I also talk about being a bear and being out on the website, and I was one of the first sites online where I was an out person and proud and happy, and I talked about being a bear. So.
I do remember that now. I forgot about that.
Yep.
Were you ever on the MOTSS groups?
Members of the same sex. Yes. I actually did participate a little bit in the discussion groups and the news groups early on. That's actually a lot of the original bears, by original bears, people who started calling themselves bears. I don't like to use that. I don't want to say original bears as if that, they're the only ones, but certainly the first organized ones were certainly starting out on MOTSS news group. That's absolutely true. And I knew several of them. We just, got each other's emails online and we email back and forth. And that was back when you actually had your email on your web page. It wasn't that big of a deal. So,
right. Yeah.
Yes. Not to say I didn't get some hate mail, although I did deal with hate mail in a really, really good way, I have to admit. The worst you can do is let them know you read your message. So I had a fake server bounce message. So when they would send me something nasty, I would just basically send them back a server bounce message saying, this mailbox is full. Message went unread. Right. And then they would forward it again, and they would forward again, and I'd send them the same thing back. So, yeah, and I was just screwing with them. It didn't matter. So, but I enjoyed doing that. So, but still, the last thing you want to do is let them know you read their hate mail. So, but yeah, so you're having your email right on your front page was very popular back then.
Some memory just popped up in my head that I was actually Dave Cobb. Do you know Dave Cobb?
Absolutely.
I was over at his house in the beginning of the internet, and he had shown me that someone had copied his profile on AOL and was using his picture on AOL. When he was showing me things on how to do AOL and how to do websites and all that, we came across, if I remember correctly, someone was copied his picture, and that still happens today.
It still happens. Even my Sucky to Savvy page got copied. My top 10, 12 page got copied, and I'd find it up on a Russian website somewhere or something like that. So, wow. Yeah, and this was in 95, 96. So,
or using your picture without your permission. There was a website.
Well, that happens a lot. They still do that today on Facebook. I just, as a matter of fact, my buddy Dave Rochelle, I got a friend request from him that didn't have his name. So, and there was his picture attached to it. So luckily I was able to, you can report that stuff and take care of it. But
well, this is Clay. You were talking about the law of how technology, it doesn't matter what they come up with, it's always going to take just as long. I think there must be an inverse law that whether it be on a bulletin board or an AOL chat room or all the technology we have today, the quality of gay communication still sucks. Hey, what you doing? Oh, it's just...
I mean, one could argue that with all the social media that we have today, that really your just your communication in general is going downhill.
I agree, Tony. I agree.
It's in some respects. I think it's funny going to a bus stop and watching everybody on their little boxes, and they're you've almost lost the chance meeting.
Yeah.
In that sense.
Although some of these people, you would argue, are on their phone meeting more people than they would if they were standing there by themselves. So,
that's correct.
There is an insular nature to it that can be problematic, especially with people online. And this has been a problem in the bear community for a long time, where if all your communication takes place online, then that insular nature you start to think that everybody thinks that way, that with the feedback you're getting online. So that's one thing I do with Bears in the Park, which is the reason I use social media to get the word out there and let people know that you should meet in real space, meet these people. I've never been a huge fan of Barefoot One and all these scruff and that stuff when it comes to your only way to meet people. They're great ways to meet someone and then go say hi in person.
Right. And then some of them have parties. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can do that. So So it's meeting somebody. We've all done it where you've chatted with somebody for 6 months online, and you meet them, and in the first 6 seconds, there's no chemistry. There's no way on earth I want to spend more than 5 minutes talking to this person. But because a lot of times people are a little different online than they are in person. That people often try on different personas online. So
just a wee bit, as Clay says. Or what Brian from San Diego says is sniffing each other's butts.
Exactly.
You meet online or meet with an app, and then you sniff each other's butts and see if anything happens.
That's exactly
Just like doggies.
Yeah. And we see lots of that at Bears in the Park when people bring their dogs. That's one thing I love, that people do that. So I started that about 4 years ago with just some friends. We just had some buddies, and I said, hey, let's all go to the park. And I put a note up on my Facebook wall, and I said, hey, it's a gorgeous day. Let's all meet at right off of John F. Kennedy Drive in Golden Gate Park. And before we knew it, we had about 30 people there. And I decided to, just open it up. People brought friends, and those friends brought friends, and before I knew it, we had close to 100 people.
I was really impressed, Jeff, with the how you set out to prove that you could have a social event through nothing more than social media to really show its true effectiveness.
Yeah,
that was very impressive.
Thanks, I appreciate that, Clay. I have prided myself in using the internet and online communication to supplement real life, not to replace real life. So,
and I think that's a good thing.
I think there's a lot of people who and we've all been there, where it's kind of nice to be, to have your own little world there for a little while, but you can't see it as real life. So that's why, it's I'm really happy that Facebook has all these tools that allow me to, I can send out an invite, but I'm very anal about my friends lists online. I have, when I friend somebody, I have over 4,000 friends, but everybody's on a list, whether they're a bear, whether they live in San Francisco, and so on. So
4,000?
Yeah, I got to clean that up a little bit.
Whoa.
So,
just a bit.
Mine's over 700, and I think it's crazy.
Yeah. But they're all on. Everybody's on a list. Whether they're family, friends, and I will friend someone I don't know. Usually, I look at the friends that we have in common and like, hey, I like all those people. I'll probably like this person too. So I've gotten a lot more picky lately. So, but after I got about 4,000, I was like, I better do something about this.
I was going to say, because you and sometimes me and Dave and some people are like, they know everybody, but you really do.
I wouldn't say no, but I know of sometimes, which happens to me a lot too. Oh, we know of him, so
yeah,
we know of him. Well, Jeff, is there anything else you want to share with our listeners about you and what you do before we move on to our next topic?
I've been in San Francisco 15 years. I love it here. If we have any listeners that have not been to San Francisco, this is a great city to visit, and maybe we'll have a few tips for people on that.
Well, that's amazing, because our next topic is, what do bear visitors to San Francisco, what can they do?
Gotta love the segues.
That is amazing.
And that segue was like a 2x4 upside the head. I did kind of make it.
Go online and have sex with people.
Just make sure that
Right.
your interactions are more than "What's up?"
What's up? Oh my God! On Facebook, those postings that you put up of the
I did put having
screenshots.
fun with people on Scruff and Growler.
Oh, that is
I got a lot. I
hysterical.
got a lot of shit from people for that. So
No, I loved it. I
for
loved it.
for saying that. Well, it's just people. When you talk to them online. I had one recently with some guy. He sent on Growler was unlock pics.
Right, I've had
That was his
happen to
first
me.
thing. That was his first thing, and not the thing that says I would, the growl tech that says the can message. It just said unlock pics, and all I sent back was, "Wow, that works." And he sent back, "Yes, now unlock your pictures." And so I realized you could type that little all cap thing that says private photos have been unlocked. I just typed in all caps, "Private photos have been locked up tighter than a nun's twat." And I'm sure he got really excited when he saw it until he read it. So, and then I blocked him. I almost never block anybody, but it's just you have some of these people that just make it way too easy to do.
I just don't respond if they just unlock the pics. I mean, I look at the pics and then I don't respond.
Well, there's a formula. It's hotness divided by distance equals my attention span to chat with you, and I think we all have that formula in our head.
We do.
It's not unusual. So.
We do. I didn't break it down though like that, but I love it.
Well, I did actually write something out one time. I got to figure out how to put it up online one of these days.
That'd be great. Well, for bear visitors coming to San Francisco, Vito, what would you tell people that are coming to San Francisco and they're a bear? What to do?
Well, there's definitely mainstays. I mean, there's the standard stuff. If you're here on a Friday, you should go to the Midnight Sun. And John, your roommate, told me about that when I first moved into town. I didn't even know about that.
Yep.
He was very kind to me. I met him at, used to be Daddy's, right? Now it's the 440.
Yeah, Daddy's is now the 440.
Yeah.
We call it Debbie's occasionally.
Debbie's. Oh, okay.
Where's that located on Castro Street?
I think it's at in Grant's Tomb.
Well, what's the address?
440.
Oh, okay. I can never find that
You're
place.
so pretty.
Oh my god.
Across from the Castro Theater. That's what I always tell people.
Oh.
You don't
So
even
it's
need
not-
Google Maps.
So it's not in an alley.
No. No.
Unfortunate.
You thought you were going to get me, didn't you?
No. Not me.
I'm pretty and smart.
Well, enough from Vito. How about you, Tony? What do you think our visitors who are bears coming to San Francisco should?
Well, if they're
should-
coming now, I would tell them to go see a Giants game before the season's
Very
over,
good.
because our SF Giants are in first place. They're in a pennant
Yay.
race, and they can pull this out. It's almost over. So,
And bring a sweater.
and bring a sweater because of the fog.
Yes, it gets cold there at the park.
Well, I mean, all the standard touristy stuff you got to do. Going on the cable car is incredible. That's so much fun.
And if you do go to a Giants game, get up and walk around the stadium. There's all kinds of little nooks and crannies and places
Absolutely.
you can go, and they got all kinds of food. They got Ghirardelli chocolate. They got all kinds of stuff.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
the level of food there is definitely
Pretty
different
freak.
than most parks.
I love my Cha-Cha Bowl, the Orlando Cepeda's Cha-Cha Bowl. That's really fantastic.
I'm always scared of. I can always tell when people on Muni are coming back from the game because the Muni car smells of garlic fries.
That's right. That's right.
All by the time you get to Castro Station, I smell like garlic fries myself, and I didn't even go to the game. So
Garlic farts.
we got garlic fries. Yeah. Well,
Oh, I'm sorry. From the perspective of the Eagles reopening,
Yep, Eagles reopening here very soon. Alex and Mike took our. I don't have their last names handy. We should probably give them a good plug. But
Vito will post that on the website.
Vito posted on.
well, they have a temporary website up.
They do, yes. SF Eagle, I think, is what it is.
Dash.
SF Eagle, yeah. And where they talk about the reopening of it. So it'll be nice to have some more. I think it's good for the Lone Star too, because the
It'll bring more people.
destination is
Yeah.
always important, and it's not necessarily a bar as much as it is where everybody else is at.
Well, and this
So-
reconstitutes the promenade from the Lone Star to the Eagle. In fact.
Absolutely, yeah.
Oh, you mean the trail between the two?
To the walk.
Yeah, and because people are like, well, the Lone Star is the only thing that's in Soma now, right? Now there's going to be two bars, so it should benefit the Lone
Yeah,
Star.
well, there's the Powerhouse and the Hole in the Wall
The
as
Hole in
well,
the
but
Wall as
and they're definitely popular places. But those are more I would say neighborhoody bars. You
Yeah.
know, where you kind of certainly not Powerhouse. The Hole in the Wall is, but the Powerhouse I think appeals to a little bit more of a different crowd. But there's certainly some crossover. There's no question there. So, but I know that it'll definitely the Lone Star will benefit from it, and they could definitely use a lot more people going. Tony and the guys that run the place have done a great job trying to get new events and change the crowd there and that kind of stuff. But it's kind of hard to get You can't just tell people to go and go, but if they have a destination now, to a destination Soma, they can do some bar hopping. And
it should help truck, too.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely truck. We love those guys. So
Yeah, I think it all will help.
Yeah, because if you're shy, you can't walk out of Lone Star all the way to Truck and see if the guy is interested in you and following you, whereas he might follow you to the Eagle.
You got
it's not that far.
Is that how it works?
It's logistics.
That's brilliant, Clay. I've never done that before.
Rink.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you the over at the Rio bar, the Eagle and Exile afternoons that they've had have been really successful. They've done fairly well.
Yeah,
So
I was there this last weekend. It was awesome. It was like the old Lone Star crowd. It was real, and like the old Eagle crowd. It was really, really fun.
Yeah, I've been to quite a few. They're really fun.
So what about
Now
you?
back to the Eagle.
Yeah, really. Now back to the Eagle.
back to the Eagle.
Do you have anything to add to this conversation there, Mr. Wolfie?
Not that I can think of, although if you're visiting in town and you want to get some good sights, you can always go up on Twin Peaks, have a good look around the city, assuming that it's not foggy. Or you can go out near Ocean Beach and Cliff House. That's got some pretty scenic views. You can watch the surfers, if that's your thing, or watch some kite flyers on occasion.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah, the Sutra Bathhouse, where that used to be.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, I wish that was open.
Yeah, well,
Really, swimming in all that salt water.
yeah. I mean, Chrissy Field is always fun to go visit. This last weekend was Labor Day was a gorgeous day here, and I was hanging out with my friend Brian Keene, and we went to Chrissy Field. And then we went to the House of Air. I don't know if you've heard of that with the trampolines.
Yes, so. I went there when I first moved to the city. This is Vito, and everything was fantastic. I was bouncing. I was kind of taking it easy. I played a little dodgeball. It was really fun because the whole room is trampolines, right? And then the very last bounce. No, what happened was I'd stopped, and then I said, "Oh, here, grab my camera and take a picture of me bouncing." So I went back on the trampoline after I had stopped and bounced. On the very last bounce, my back went.
Well,
and it took over 3 months for me to recover.
we bounced for about 15 minutes, and then I was like, "This fun is way too much work." So we went and got the camera. That got me a couple more, a little bit extra time. We went and got the camera, got some pictures of us bouncing on them. So we had a great time. It was fun. So the house there, it was like $15. You get a bounce for an hour. So
Yeah.
Well, and there's a lot of historical stuff. This is Clay. Here in the Castro, there's a walking tour of the Castro, and I work part-time at the HRC store, which is in Harvey Milk's old camera store. And lots of folks, when they're coming to town, come in, and we act as sort of unofficial ambassadors to the Castro and try to answer questions. So
I've seen that. People specifically go there just to find out about Harvey.
Absolutely. Or to find out about what's going on. And so we have brochures and pamphlets and things like that.
Because it was in the movie, right? Milk?
Absolutely. It was
Yeah.
filmed.
Yeah.
The whole Castro was redone. So it's really cool. And one of the things I always tell people is, even if you're not interested in the museums, if you take the N Judah train out to 9th Avenue and walk into the middle of Golden Gate Park, the DeYoung Museum, they have a 9-story tower. It's all glassed in at the top, and you get just this spectacular 360 view of Golden Gate Park and many parts of the city, including a really unusual landlocked view of the towers of the Golden Gate Bridge, which is kind of cool. Of course, it has to be a clear day for that. But
you just reminded me, one of my favorite things to do in Golden Gate Park is the Japanese tea gardens, and to go and get the tea. And get your little tea and your little crackers.
yeah, it's a great place to take visitors.
Yeah.
Because it's a touch. It's a taste of San Francisco, and a lot of people don't know that that's where the Chinese fortune cookies were invented, right there at the Japanese tea gardens. So
No way.
That's true. They were not invented in China. So
Wait, the China and Japanese, you're kind of...
yeah, no, I know that's what's so strange. But fortune cookies themselves were invented there at the Japanese tea gardens.
Well, that's wild.
Look it up on Wikipedia.
I will. I'll put a link.
well, cool. Does anybody else have anything to add for our bear visitors to San Francisco?
Well, I also think that there's some decent theater going on in town. Of course, there was Warhorse. What's the Mormon musical that's coming?
Book of Mormon.
Book of Mormon. There you go. That's coming as well. We've got some decent theater happening here.
Well, there's the Nob Hill Theater. Oh, sorry.
Oh, that's a different
Good
kind
one,
of
Clay. Good one.
That's a different kind of art.
What is that, a porn theater?
Oh, and just for a quick plug, if you are coming to town for Folsom, I am doing Bears in the Park on Saturday, September 22nd from 1 to 5. We meet behind the tennis courts, right off of the J Church Line stop stop at 18th and Church. Yeah, and bring what you want to eat, and bring your dogs, bring your husbands, bring your kids. We get a lot of people, and it's
wine.
a lot of fun. And technically booze is not allowed in the park, but it is tolerated, much like several other illegal substances in Dolores Park. So.
And my dog Scarlett would like to add that if you bring your dog and they like to bite other dogs, please keep your dog on a leash, because Scarlett came home with a little cut over her eye one time.
I'm sorry to hear
Nice.
that.
Poor little Scarlett.
Yeah, that I have had to tell a few people to keep their dogs reined in there. So
Right.
yeah,
And you can also get cookies. Were they special cookies or happy cookies?
Speaking of things tolerated
not
in
from
Dolores
me.
Park.
I want to make that clear.
No.
Abundantly clear.
No.
Those would be the people walking through the park with their tote bags.
I only saw that. I only got propositioned at Easter.
Well, and I don't know if this phenomenon is isolated to San Francisco, but also during Bears in the Park, you can't assume that every young man with his shirt off and fur on his chest is a bear or considers himself within the community or even gay, because there's a lot of scruffy young men running around this city who like to get high in Dolores Park and drink beer and play frisbee and
give us good view.
And they don't seem to care that all the men are like, oh.
Yeah, well, you can't miss the group of bears under the two trees there, so you'll know where they're at.
I'll be there with my wine.
Is that spelled with an H?
Wine?
You can't see this, but Vito's been wearing his sunglasses the entire time on top of his head during this podcast, so it's really bright in here, apparently.
Well,
Now he looks like a rock star.
I'm from San Diego, and that's just what you do.
Like, oh my God, he's totally from San Diego.
But I'll be a year in San Francisco in October.
Wow.
Yay.
You believe it?
Well, in the Bay Area, anyway.
And yeah, that's true. And but we see you up here all the time. We saw you up here all the time, Vito. So you were practically local trash. You were here so much.
Well, it's primarily because this is where I pick up my mail.
If you can live here in San Francisco for a year,
pick
you're
up
doing
your
pretty
mail?
good.
Jeff was referring to seeing you here before you moved here.
Yes, that's what I was talking
Oh,
about.
sorry.
Yeah. You absolutely are local trash right now. I just want to make that clear. But
okay.
before we almost were. So it only takes a couple of weeks before that happens in town. So
I moved up a year before Vito did, and all the time that he was coming up when he first got here, we couldn't walk down the street 20 feet and somebody was like, Vito! Oh my God, Vito! So
yes, we all know Vito. We've known of Vito for a long time too. So
Well, I appreciate it.
hello.
We're back.
Hey
Howdy.
there.
And this
Hello.
is Vito.
This is Tony.
This is Clay,
This is Wolfie.
and this is Jeff.
our guest, Jeff
All right.
Glover. Yeah.
And you're listening to the Bear Element Podcast.
Second half.
Second half, part 2, 009.
So, let's talk about a pressing social issue, bathroom etiquette. Are you the type of person that has to be alone in the bathroom with the door closed? Or is it more of a group activity? Has the door open?
Well, I'm from New York, so door closed
Door closed.
and locked.
And locked. No, this is Vito. I'm definitely door. This is private time. Peeing is public. I don't care about peeing. Number 2, that's my private time. Nobody in the bathroom. Nothing.
How about you, Wolfie?
Locked. Closed and locked.
And our guest, Jeff? How
Well,
about you?
I don't know. It just seems, I think, it seems a major agreement on the door closed. But I think we've all had that one trick that, in the morning went to go use the restroom and just left the door wide open, and you're kind of sitting there in bed going, okay, that's a little odd. But, peeing's one thing. We all, I have parties at my house, and occasionally you'll hear that someone's just got the door open when they're pissing. It's not a big deal, but, it's, except for that one time, Vito, where, I had to hold your hair while you were throwing up in the toilet. So, so you didn't, did your hair, it was that bad night. Too many Jaeger shots at the Lone Star. I remember.
Are you serious?
You don't remember, do you? I had to hold your beard out of the toilet to make sure, Well, Becky threw up. No, I'm just teasing you.
Okay, I'm like, well, because if you're drunk, you don't remember, right? Who knows what Who knows what I've done that
I'm going to have to remember this little tidbit about you, Vito. I could just about make any story I want up about him, and he'd believe it.
I just
doubt
love
he's
that he
drunk.
questioned it immediately.
That is
it's-
funny. That is funny.
Because it's possible. It's definitely possible.
So listeners out there that have known Vito for a long time, write in and tell us about things that he's done while he's drunk that he don't remember.
That would be nice. I would like that.
And if you have
actually.
pictures, please send them to.
Video, upload it all, please.
I think it would be a great coffee table book.
YouTube links.
The email is stuff@bearelement.com.
I'll just put them up on the Facebook wall. Let everybody see them.
That's true. That's true.
Well, it's interesting. I'm the one that brought up this topic, and I must be the lone dissenter here, but my family history, we had a fairly large family, and we often had houses that only had one bathroom. And it was a hard and fast law. Rule from my earliest memory is you never lock the door because you didn't know who needed to use the bathroom. And I just grew up that way. And shortly after I moved in with Bill about 2 years ago, I was talking to him, and he went in the bathroom, and I was opening the door, and I was teasing him because I know he likes to have his private time, especially when he's pooping. But for him, the bathroom is his place, and it's his little sanctity. But his apartment is set up where you basically have to go through the bathroom. It's a big circuit, so there's 2 doors on the bathroom. So I was going back and forth and harassing him, and then he just locked the door. And I had this instinctual just rage that he locked the door because you could never do that. And even as a small child, we had one house where the hall closet opened up into the bathroom, and someone locked the door. We just opened up the hall closet, push the towels aside, and climb through the closet and get in there. I mean, you just couldn't do that. And it was so funny because my reaction was just so raw that I'm like, okay, it's not his fault that I'm upset. This is just crazy family history. So I'm like, come on, Scarlett, let's go for a walk. And I walked him off.
So everybody in the family saw everybody's Peter and balls and pubes while you were wiping.
The
and
JJs and yeah.
And poop stained toilet paper.
There was no privacy. Absolutely
Wow.
none.
It's like the army or the
They
military.
could only
huh?
see my eyes rolling right now. So, Vito.
Whoa.
So you're saying you had like Jack and Jill bathroom, where like the Brady Bunch, they had Jack and Jill bathrooms,
Well-
where they're shared by the two bedrooms.
Well, no. I mean, we only had one bathroom in the whole house.
How many kids? How big was your family?
The most we ever had under one house, under one roof, was 4.
Okay, because we had one bathroom, 6 kids. There was 8 of us, and the door was locked. But trust me, there was a lot of pounding on the door, going, "I need to go." But the guys went outside. We just peed outside. And I had 2 sisters, and there were 3 brothers. So excuse me, I had 3 brothers. So there's 4 boys and 2 girls.
Would you live in the middle of the woods? I mean,
No, this was this was a dairy farm in Wisconsin. That's where I grew up. So north of the Minneapolis, St. Paul. So and lots of room. So yeah, you could just go outside and pee.
yeah,
So
that makes sense.
but I can't imagine we ever. But I think part of it too because there were girls in the house. They always needed their privacy. So.
Well, that's cool that you would do that. So when a boy was in the bathroom, they were doing something they needed to do.
Yeah.
There wasn't goofing around.
There was always a little goofy around in the bathroom.
What about? Oh yeah.
I do remember the time my mom came rushing out. She went, "All right, I know what you're doing in there." And she said to all 4 of us boys, she goes, "I know what you're doing in there, and it's perfectly normal, but don't use my baby oil." And of course, we all look at my brother. JD. We knew it was him. So, and we were all looking at him, and it was so nice that my mom was like, "And it's perfectly normal." She had to throw in there. So,
However,
and that's definitely where you'd want to keep that door shut, I believe.
Well,
Locked.
what made me think of this is I had an old friend visiting out of town a couple weeks ago, and we were going to have dinner, and I was cooking in the kitchen, and he went to use the restroom, and I noticed he left the door open when he went to the bathroom, and I'm like, see, there's someone else that gets it. And then another friend came over, and then Bill came home from work, and somehow I guess someone went to go to the bathroom. That's right, someone went to the bathroom, and it sounded like the door got locked, and I'm like, did you lock that door? And Kai, the person that had been over earlier, he's like, I don't even bother closing it with him anymore because he's all up in my grill about what's going on in the bathroom. Why close the door? So I don't know why it's always been an issue for me, but I'm an open door policy person. So
Yeah. No.
no, and that's okay.
And that's all right.
And that's okay.
What was I going to say? Well, what about the sink? Like getting ready in the morning. What do you guys couples do for sinks?
Well, that's a good question because a lot of times you don't have the little separate pooping room. You have it's all one room.
Yeah, and Bill thinks it's disgusting that I would want to come in and brush my teeth while he's pooping. I'm like, I got to go to work. So, I'm going to do what I need to do. I don't care. It doesn't faze me one bit. And then, of course, I was in the military. And,
that could make a huge difference there. So.
Definitely.
That just reinforced it. But, yeah, so, I mean...
Did they regulate your poops in the military? We're not in this business, and like, don't touch yourself, and did they yell at you?
No, but you didn't want to draw attention to yourself. So, if you must really have wanted to pee to get out of bed to walk, because you don't want to come in the line of fire of a drill sergeant. So
That's SSS, right? Should shower and shave.
I'm pretty sure they were more worried about all the sex Clay was having on,
Oh, did you ever hear the bunks like going?
That's exactly what I was thinking.
No, because I sleep like a log. They could have been having a full-on orgy, and I would have been like, "What?"
Oh, okay.
So no.
Damn, you're no fun.
I no fun. I no fun at all. So, alrighty. Well,
Tony, anything else to add, Tony?
I go to the bathroom quite regularly. Thanks.
All right. New topic.
Apparently.
Let's talk about heart health. And Vito, this was your suggestion, so start us off. Tell us about heart health.
Well, I thought the listeners might be interested in my story, and because what prompted it was Michael Clark Duncan died. I guess he had a heart attack back in July, and it prompted me to think, well, it could have been, we don't know, I don't know this, unregulated blood pressure. I actually had a friend that used to cut my hair in Long Beach, and he died of that. He had unregulated blood pressure, and he knew it too, and he didn't take the pills and had a heart attack and died. He was like 33. So
wow. And the actor Michael Duncan was only 54.
Okay,
so he was pretty young.
Yeah, and then what happened was I didn't have insurance. Luckily, I was going to this clinic. It was in between jobs in San Diego, and just my chest felt like my heart seems to be working a little too much. I just felt weird. So I went to the clinic and I said, I need to be tested for high blood pressure. And they tested me 2 or 3 times and then come in 2 or 3 times. Sorry, I don't remember exactly what happened. But then they're like, oh, yep, you have high blood pressure.
Was this clinic in Tijuana where you're drinking tequila? What?
I'm sorry, I don't remember exactly how they diagnosed it. But no, it was not. It was, they just handed
That was
me
the evening I held his hair.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so my point is that if you're bigger, have any weight on you at all, and it really doesn't matter. Even the thin guy in my office that just started, I found out that he's on blood pressure medication because sometimes it's hereditary.
That's where I'm at. I take high blood pressure medication because my dad had that. So it's not just because you're big. It could be anything.
Yeah, hypertension runs in my family as well. So hypertension. My mom's like a tiny little 90-pound woman, and she has high triglycerides, high cholesterol issues. She's always had them. It's hereditary. My dad's side of the family is all hypertension, high blood pressure. So, it's just something. Luckily, I have a doctor who's very aggressive about it. Different doctors are, some doctors are like, especially in the bear community, it's tough. My doctor, what I love about him is the first time I met him, I went to go see him, and we got a blood work done. It was right before Castro Street Fair, and then at Castro Street Fair, I see him sitting in the middle of Castro Street Fair here, drinking a beer and smoking a joint. And I'm like, now this is a doctor I can deal with. So, but at least he understands the community, and it's like, our community, we drink, we eat, and there's they don't just say don't do that, because so many doctors just go, well, you're fat, lose weight. That's their solution.
Yeah,
so
it doesn't work. Yeah.
So, and it doesn't necessarily work. And of course, we live in a community where, bigness is somewhat fetishized, by some of the community, not all of it, but some of the community is. So, and that doesn't help with the, it helps with the self-image, but it certainly doesn't help with health issues that can take place. So.
That's correct. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. So I encourage everybody to go out and get tested, even if you don't think you are, or at any age, really, especially over 30.
Yep.
Especially if you're 40 and you haven't been tested for high blood pressure.
That's
for sure.
insane.
And if you have anything in your family that has anything to do with the heart, any kind of problems, even if you feel fine.
Well, it's interesting in my case, because my biological father had medically concerning low blood pressure. And there seems to be a little bit of high blood pressure here and there on my mother's side of the family. I think most of my siblings that have high blood pressure, they're like half or step So I think that has to do more with my stepfather's side of the family. But it's my joke is, though, it's like, well, I got low blood pressure on one side and high blood pressure on the other. I'm doing fine. But I mean, I've never had an issue with that. Knock on wood. But I also turned 52 in a month, so it's a different. Suddenly, it's like, oh shit, this guy died at 54.
Yeah. Well, I had.
You were going to say how good I looked for 52?
Yes, that's what it was.
Yeah.
It's on the tip of everybody's tongue.
I was going to say something.
Fabulous.
I was going to say something, but our listeners can't see how great look. They can see the pictures on the website.
Can they see me casting a line, fishing in those kind of things? My 14-year younger than me partner has more gray hair than I do. Sorry, Bill. But everyone knows that.
I don't remember what I was going to say. So
Another one that's pretty big in the bear community that I've noticed is diabetes, which runs on my dad's side of the family, I believe.
The sugar. Yeah.
Sugar. And you can get a sugar in a lot of places, white rice.
What are you laughing about, Vito? You've heard it called the sugar before, haven't you?
yeah, Jeff hasn't even had one.
Yes,
I bought
he has.
these. Did you eat anything?
I'm not a sweets guy. Now, if there were dill pickle potato chips here, I'd be eating them by the mouthful.
You're a savory guy.
Yes.
Okay.
The sixth taste bud, that savory bud that people know exists, but they never talk about.
I like it too.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, these notes that you gave us for the topics, Vito, is this from an article that we can post? So with all the different things to work on?
I got that online, yeah.
Yeah, so Vito will post this along with the episode, but they're just to run through some of the different things from a men's health interview with the actor Michael Duncan. Some of the things that came up I thought were a little counterintuitive. One of them is to prevent problems with your heart. Drink 2 cups of coffee a day. I thought that was intriguing. And eat vitamin C rich foods like citrus fruits. Snack on cherries. Soak up the sun. Spice up your food. Ooh, shed your spare tire. That's always a challenge for some of us.
That's a tough one.
My partner Bill, I'll say, "Oh, I'm too fat." He's like, "Oh, shut up. Have a brownie." But here's one that might be encouraging to people: have a beer.
What's it say about beer and heart issues?
What's our scientific source here?
According to a recent review of more than 18 studies on booze, beer is just as good for your heart as vino. Drinking a little more than a pint of beer a day could make you 30% less likely than non-drinkers to suffer from a stroke, heart attacks, and heart disease, researchers found. But just don't overdo it. Moderate drinking, the healthy kind, is defined as no more than 2 alcoholic beverages a day for men or 1 for women.
A day? I thought it was an hour.
You read that wrong.
I definitely have the coffee and the beer now.
Yeah, we definitely do, Tony.
But beer's good as a digestive, and it's and if it lowers your stress level, stress is probably the biggest thing that causes a lot of problems for a lot of us. It also goes on to say keep a water bottle by your desk, drink lots of water. Try to take the glass half full attitude. Always a good way to go.
I like the glass half full. You know what that means? Room for more vodka.
Room for more vodka. Something that might be a little tough for some of us to stomach is to start your morning with grapefruit.
That's tough.
And ironically, grapefruit is counteracts with my heart medication that I take. Yeah, that's the one thing that says do not have grapefruit juice with when you take the.
Really?
Yeah. It's,
I'm lisinopril and hydrochlorothiazide.
I don't.
I never say it right.
I was on that one, but this is a different one that I'm on. So.
Okay.
Is that like vitamin?
Vitamin.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt there, Clay. I just thought that was some irony about that.
And there's some other things on there too. So we'll post the link to that for our listeners.
Oh, and actually, one of my concerns when I started taking the blood pressure medication was about erectile dysfunction. So you may have to play around with your medications to make sure that it doesn't
and
affect
other things.
So
I'm fine.
Well, and we do encourage our listeners if they have things to share. So if you have anything about heart health that we should know, send us an email to stuff@bearelement.com.
Sure.
Or you can post it on our Facebook page. But lowering stress, one of the ways to do that, they say, is to have a pet. So how many of us here have pets? And if we do, why do we love them? So I know some of us do and some of us don't.
I don't, but I want a wiener dog so bad.
Oh, they are so cute.
I grew up, the neighbor had a dachshund, whatever.
Dachshund. Or if you're in Australia, you say dachshund.
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 You had to do the Australian accent. You had to get that in there. And I used to play her. Her name was Gretel, which is German, obviously. And I just loved her. And she was so ornery. And then, but we had, I grew up with a poodle, a full-size collie, female collie. It was a male poodle, female collie, a golden retriever, and then a, what are they called? With the big eyelashes and the long ears, and they're stupid.
Hooker?
Llama?
I'm sorry.
I'll remember.
Okay.
Anyway, she was the prettiest dog, but she had no brains. Anyway, so I grew up with dogs. My mom told me cats were evil. And then I had a roommate years ago, and he had a cat, and he moved out. So I took over the cat, ended up loving the cat, had the cat for over 15 years, had to put the cat to sleep, and it was terrible.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you had that stray that adopted you in San Diego. That was cute.
Yeah.
Little kitty.
So I'm both. I'm a cat and a dog person.
Dog, no cat. In fact, I'm allergic to some cats, so that's part of it. But I do love dogs. I grew up with dogs. German Shepherd, Great Dane, Labrador Retriever. My last dog was a very small beagle, which was kind of neat to run around with. So love the dogs. I've just never... The thing with the cats, I just never had a thing for cats. They're very independent, which is great, but it's sort of like, when you want to go over and pet or, get close, it's sort of, I'm kind of busy right now. I'm just, you just stay over there and make me some dinner. I'm good,
That's cat.
Yeah, I've always had a theory of reincarnation that it's basically goes black woman, gay man, and then cat. Because that pretty much sums up the attitude, attitude, and finally the cat. They're like, don't even bother. So this is Jeff. I've basically been a cat person mostly. Growing up in a dairy farm, we had so many dogs and cats that we didn't have names for them all. So, nor that much of an attachment to them either. So, it wasn't unusual to turn the lights on in the dairy barn and watch the cows get up and find a flat cat under a cow that was trying to keep warm in the middle of the night, but is now expired.
That's funny.
But no, it's pretty. Just growing up on a dairy farm, pets is not something that. Especially I love pets. The place where we can't have pets right now, and I'm just fine with that. I'm actually too selfish to give pet any love, the love it needs right now. I can barely keep an aloe vera plant alive, let alone a cat at this point. So
I remember the dogs. This is Vito, the Cocker Spaniel. They're pretty and they're just not very smart. Go ahead, Clay.
Well, cool. How about you there, Wolfie?
I'm going to say dogs only because I'm slightly allergic to cats. But I have known some cats that I've liked as well.
Well, my name is Clay, and I am bipedal. So
Hi, Clay.
welcome, Clay.
Thank
Welcome,
you.
Clay.
Woof. Meow.
How many chips do you have?
Yeah, currently I'm the human guardian of a wonderful canine by the name of Scarlett. Came into my life 6 years ago now, and she's been a real blessing. I hadn't had a dog in 20 years, and boy, the rules changed. You can't just trot down to the grocery store and buy dog chow. You have to find out what their special food allergies and sensitivities might be. And she's part pit bull, and they have a lot of issues with really bad gas, like clear the room gas. So you definitely want to make sure you hit those. So no beef treats for Scarlett. But I've had cats in the past. I've had dogs and cats at the same time. We lived on a small farm, 17 acres, and we had probably just as many goats as we had dogs and cats, and some chickens and some ducks. Yeah, all over the map.
You were doing noises earlier, so I thought I'd... All right, you just keep doing it because you do it really
Stop
well.
it, you're turning me on.
Jeffrey, stop it.
That's a whole other topic there.
Yes.
We're talking about animal sex.
No
one would want to admit it.
But the men are horny and the sheep run scared.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Yeah, today I'm sort of in between jobs, and I do work part-time at the HRC store, but that's not enough to live on. So trying to get out of my funk, I went and I did the orientation meeting for the SPCA. So hopefully I'll be working down there. That really rekindled my passion for taking care of animals and helping them find good homes. And
aren't you certified or something in pet massage?
I did take an animal massage course when I lived down in the Ojai Valley. Yeah, so hopefully that'll help too, because one of the things we did in our training is we went to the Ventura Humane Society and worked with the dogs, because they get so scared, just being stuck in a cage all the time. That's what they were talking about here, is how do you make a dog or a cat adoptable when they're pacing back and forth in a dog run or a cage. And if you've been to the San Francisco SPCA, it's pretty cool. They have kitty condos and they have TV for them, and the rooms are glass, and you can walk by and interact with the animals through the glass before you get a volunteer to help you.
I found it by accident. I was walking, and look, the SPCA. I'll go look. Oh my God, so cute.
Well, they're usually on the corner over here, just about every weekend.
Yeah, they
here
do come around.
Hibernia Beach.
And there's a lot of groups, beyond the SPCA. I mean, they actually here in San Francisco are located right next to Animal Control, which is the city's functionality. The SPCA is lucky enough to be a no-kill shelter, and they take a lot of animals from Animal Control. They actually also take a lot of animals from out of town, because there are shelters in our area here in Northern California that have kill rates as high as 60 and 70%. So a lot of the animals that go in there never come out. So it's it's some real challenges out there. So if anybody is interested in adopting, there are lots of opportunities. I had some challenges with Scarlett because she's mixed. She's part pit bull, probably Staffordshire Terrier. She's got some boxer in there, so that's two different bully breeds, and they're pretty intense animals. But she's also got some doofy lab in her, maybe some cattle dog, and she's very sweet with people. She's just real alpha with other animals, and you have to watch that, which is always interesting because she's the one that ends up getting bit at the dog park or at Bears in the Park, and she wasn't doing anything, I mean, if she started it, we could be upset with her, but she's just standing there. What happened?
And a lot of apartments and things have standing orders. We take pets, but we do not take anything that looks like a bull, right?
Absolutely, yeah. A lot of insurance companies won't allow it, and dog bites are a huge concern. Unfortunately, it's not always the dog doing the biting that was at fault. If people don't know how to approach an animal, especially young children, people need to teach their kids that you always have to ask permission first.
I will admit that's one reason why I'm not a huge dog person, because I have a scar on my face from when I was 5 years old, and I was bit by our German Shepherd at the house. So, and I don't know what happened. I was running around the house, and I'd give the dog a hug, and I'd run around the house again, and I'd give the dog a hug. And the third time I did it, the dog bit my face. So
you probably heard it, yeah.
And we don't know what happened. One of my brothers or sisters gave it some food or something like that, and it was being protective of that. But not sure what it was. But at 5 years old, it was a kind of a traumatic experience for me. So.
And that's interesting because around the same age, I opened up the wrong gate. I had wandered off the street and got lost and opened up the wrong gate, and this huge German Shepherd came out, and I started running, and it bit me in the rear and then took me down. And lucky for me, it kept going because my friend that was with me was faster, so she was out front. So she actually bore the brunt of the biting until people called her off and the dog off. And of course, we got spanked because we were off our street and opened the wrong gate. The dog wasn't really doing anything wrong per se, and it was a guard dog, and we had no business being there. But for me, I mean, I had a cat that I adopted that the poor thing, he had been kicked by this guy that had steel-toed work boots because there was supposed to be a pet-free apartment building and these wild cats outside. And so a friend of mine said, hey, can you adopt this kitten? He needs help. And if you touched him in his lower back, he would bite you savagely for 2 years. He had so much pain and so much trauma. But eventually I got to the point I just started his head and stroked down his back until he flinched, and I'd stop and I keep going. And then it took almost 2.5, almost 3 years before one day I was down and my hand was on his tail, and he was laying on my chest at the time, and we both looked at each other, and I just let go and put my hand back up in his ears, and he closed his eyes and went back to sleep. But, I got bit every day for over 2 years because he was a very sensitive cat.
You know what? There's something about cats, the 2 years. The same with my cat. It takes 2 years for them to get used to anything. 2 years. It's a magic number.
Magic number.
That's why you have to have patience with a cat. Dogs are different. You get that immediate feedback, right, Tony?
Oh, every time.
Yeah, with a cat, doesn't work that way.
Good or bad, and you can't take it personally. I mean, a lot of dogs are afraid of men. Scarlett was afraid of women, and I don't think she was ever abused. I think it was just probably a woman gave her up for adoption, and bully breeds are very sensitive.
Sure.
And she just was like, so. But she's gotten over it. She loves everybody now.
So now you still have a cat then, Vito?
No, I don't have anything right now, but I have 2 beta fish at work.
Yeah.
I'm having one of the girls take one.
Now, are the fish a registered companion fish in San Francisco? They're very important.
You must register your fish.
Exactly. This town.
What the hell are you talking
amazes
about?
me. No,
are you serious?
You can register a piranha as a registered companion pet in this town. But when people come to visit this town, and
I can walk around with the bowl.
I was just shopping the other day, and I saw, and there was. Someone was like, "Oh my God, I love that you can bring your dog into Safeway," and I was like, "That's because in this town you can register just about any pet as a registered companion pet for any reason, just about, and you could take it with you anywhere."
That's hysterical.
But that's also one issue with the apartment and renting apartments in this town. That if you have pets. It can really limit your choices of apartment buildings.
Of course. Yeah. I think it's gotten worse actually. With
I think so too.
In San Francisco proper, especially looking for a place. A lot of places don't want pets.
Yeah. I know our apartment building. This is Jeff. Our apartment building does not allow pets at all, and the main reason was because one of the people there had about 7 animals registered as companion animals in San Francisco, and they were loud and noisy and destructive animals.
Somebody ruined it for everybody.
Yeah, they ended up ruining it for everybody in the apartment building. So, because I'd love to have a pet, but just can't.
We love our pets. Well, I think it's time for us to go around the table and give Backscratches. Who wants to go first for Backscratches?
Oh, I'm getting pointed at. This is Jeff.
Jeff.
For the Backscratches. I thank you guys for letting me come by and talk to you guys. It was fun. I guess I have to say my biggest backscratch goes out to Harry Litt because he's been a real model for me in the community. There's always I love the fact that Harry has been there for this community in this town for a long time. It would be great to see him on the podcast sometimes too. So
actually, I definitely want to invite him.
Yeah, he's been through a lot, and if you're visiting town, Sunday Furry Sunday is always a fun thing to do as well. That he does at the 440, so it's a fun event. But I always, I think Harry's a good model for. Community, and giving back, and I've always, he's been a good model for me too. So,
well, that's awesome.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Well, my running back scratches from my ever patient partner Bill, who puts up with me and my shenanigans, and after today at the orientation for the SPCA, they have 200 some staff and 1,200 volunteers. Back scratches to all of them for all the work they do, because having a no-kill shelter is not an easy task, so they're pretty awesome.
I'd like to give a very big, this is Wolfie, I'd like to give a very big back scratch to my friend Kelly up in Edmonton for being a very gracious host when I visited. Also would like to give a back scratch out to Tim, who couldn't be here, and my roommates Paul and Jesse for putting up with me with hobbling around the apartment with my sprained ankle. Thanks, guys.
Great, this is Vito. Well, of course I'm going to give a back scratch to my dad, because he actually is recovering from his lung transplant.
Great to hear that.
Yeah. Of course, my mom is going out of her mind. And I'd like to thank Tony for guest hosting.
Yay,
Always
Tony.
fun.
Yay, Tony.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tony.
And I'd like to thank Jeff. You are definitely an inspiration to the bear community.
Oh,
you always have been.
Sweet of you. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I also want to do some quick back scratches to some listeners. Dan C., commenting on the Facebook, and Christian M. and Eric C., who commented on our topics today, along with Jeff. Very smart-assily. But it's still
I know no other way.
It's still appreciated.
It's the only way I know. It's like I said to someone the other day. They said, "Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt, Jeff," and I said, "There's no other way. Mm-hmm. That's the only way you can talk to me.
The only way you're going to get a word in edgewise."
Exactly.
And last but not least,
I want to give a quick back scratch to all of you guys, real quick. Thanks for letting me do the Bear Element podcast. It's been fun. You guys are a lot of fun to hang with, and to Tim as well, who's not here. I also want to give a quick back scratch to my dear friends Brian and Joel, who I stayed out with in Las Vegas this past weekend. They always put me up when I go out there, and it saves me a couple of dollars on the hotel. Thanks, guys.
Yes.
And we can't wait for Tim to come back. All right. Good night.
Yay, we missed you, Tim.
Night.
Good night.
All right.
Visit us at bearelement.com.